if you can create, if you're already in this angry, frustrated, really negative mind state, it's something you're creating. And if you see that you're creating that, then you can create something else. You can do something else another way. But first, you have to see that you're creating that negativity.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people don't see that. And I in the last few years, I've been able to sort of stand away and realize that sometimes I'm doing it to myself.
Oh yeah, I just started seeing that, and I'm like, oh, I made a mess of my life. Holy shit! Oh my god. Greetings, friends. This is my first interview ever, and I decided to do this interview on a whim. This was during my Art Hobo week, exploring the art of hand building pottery. I did a reflection video on it recently, so check that out. My pottery teacher's name is Lesley McInally, and we talked about motherhood, the flow states that her experience of flow states, her experience of her art, identity, and her inspirations. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did, and I learned a lot from this whole experience, especially as an interviewer. So thank you and enjoy. And we're on. I always like the sound of children playing. I used to live in an apartment building. We don't have to look at the camera. You can just.
No, I wasn't. I was looking at the kids.
Okay.
I will definitely not be looking at the camera.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's not too intimidating. It's just like a little.
Little tiny thing where.
Yeah, I used to live in a condo or apartment building, and the balcony would overlook this basketball court and park, and I would spend a lot of my time just like drinking tea and hearing and watching kids play.
Yeah, it's nice, especially with the laughter, not the screaming. I think every mum just does that if they hear screaming.
Is it just mom instinct once you?
I think so. Oh yeah, and it doesn't go no matter what age they seem to be. Yeah, you just seem to. It kicks in very quickly. Yeah. And my daughter, she was one of those people that had to be held. So I had 3 different carriers, and she would not sleep if she was not being held. So she didn't nap during the day. She didn't sleep at night unless she was on top of me. So for the first 2 years, she slept beside me or on top of me for like 45-minute increments. It was tough. Tired. I was very tired.
Yeah. I was one of those babies that was a really fussy eater, and I always wanted my mom's milk. Always, like, I don't know until what age, maybe to like a concerningly late age in my babyhood.
Isla was 2.5 when I finally weaned her, and her dad took her to Scotland, and that's what finally got her off, but she was not stopping. And for the first year she had reflux, so she would gobble up milk and then puke it all out and then be like ravenously hungry again. Yes, non-stop.
One of the things I linked with comfort in my childhood is not my mom's milk, because that'd be awful. Up till now, that'd be a therapy thing. But night drives, because my dad would come back home from a late night shift at the factory. My parents ended up working like ridiculously long hours for factory jobs to support my brother and I. Anyways, he'd come back home late at night, super tired, and then I'd still be up and fussy, and he would take me on a night drive to calm me down. Yeah. And so night drives are just
a thing.
Yeah, a thing for me that provides a lot of relaxation.
That's nice. That's a hit and miss with Isla. She just wouldn't settle down at all. Yeah, I don't know. She had to be in a sling, and then she would fall fast asleep. But you couldn't then transfer her onto something else. The minute you transferred her, like no matter how slowly, how carefully, even at night time, take it like 10 minutes just trying to inch her onto the bed, and her eyes would just pop open. And like, fuck. Here we go.
Try again, reset.
Yeah, awake again for another 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Well, what was that like, learning that you were pregnant, and then actually the moment of becoming a mother, or maybe even the gradual lead up to?
It was quite weird because I didn't want children at all, and then in my mid-30s I was told I probably couldn't have them anyway, and I was pretty good with that. And 41, I thought it was early menopause, and found out I was pregnant. So that was kind of weird, and just going through the transition of, am I going to do this? And every time I thought about it, the alternative, my body was just screaming, no, this is going to happen. So, and I knew right from the beginning I was going to have a girl. And from the first ultrasound that confirmed it, we just knew 100% it was a girl. So yeah. Oh. It's kind of weird. And then I really enjoyed pregnancy. All the hormones were great, apart from the first early on where you're feeling a bit nauseated, but the rest of it I was just feeling fabulous, really enjoying like riding those hormones.
Yeah.
So sorry, the black flying out.
Yeah.
And then the first 2 years were exhausting, so I found that really, really hard. And then when she started to become a little bit more independent, things got a bit easier. So, yeah.
What was the shift like from like becoming a mother? What was that like for you?
Nothing can prepare you, absolutely nothing. I just I didn't know what had hit me. There was no family around to help, and it was tough just never having someone else to take her and give me a rest or give me a break. And I think when you're aged 40, 41 and you've just been used to being quite selfish with what your time is, and then to go from that to having absolutely zero time whatsoever, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never been able to consume a hot cup of tea, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, you're on all the time.
On all the time. And Isla's, like, she's 12 now, so she's a lot more independent, but it's only been in the last year that she started to sleep in her own bed. So she's just been one of those clingy, has to fall asleep in your arms and be beside mummy. And now she's just gone from that to don't come in my room without knocking. Okay, all those years.
Yeah, that was me too. Like, even if when my parents would close my door and not properly close it, I would be furious.
Yeah, exactly. So we've gone from zero privacy, no boundaries, to complete boundaries.
God, I can't imagine that transition. I have no experience of that where my entire life is just suddenly dedicated to another human being.
Nothing prepares you, and
an instant.
I think some people just do it naturally and can do it so well, and other people are supported by a village, and I was just on my own, so it was hard.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, who are you?
I am Lesley McInally.
Hello, Lesley. I'm Nick. Good to meet you again. When it comes to being a mother and what's your craft?
Ceramics.
Ceramics. So being a potter. What have you found? How has your craft evolved with your transition to motherhood? Was there like an instant evolution in your art, or was it like a gradual thing?
No, it definitely comes into play. I think I was using a lot of heavy metals before I was pregnant, and I was getting some really lovely dry organic glazes, and barium, using a lot of barium, which can be quite toxic. And then when I was pregnant, I realised that I didn't want to use heavy metals anymore and had to rethink how my entire process. So that's when I started working with slips and introducing a lot more colour into the work. And probably at that point when I was doing things like coiling, they became very feminine, a lot more bulbous in form. And that was the sort of first changes I did. And then of course I think I had a 2-person show when she was 2 months old, and that was tough, trying to be a new mum and pull a show together.
Yeah.
But I think even the early influences of having a baby came into play with a lot of the surfaces that I was doing.
Interesting, like how you described the bulbousness of it.
Yeah. I think 2 years into it, I had a solo show at the Art Gallery of Burlington, and making very, very feminine bulbous forms, most of them all coiled. And one of them was a piece that I made for her, and it was called Goodnight Moon. You know the book?
No.
So it's like one of those incredibly thick page children's books.
Okay. And
it's quite an old book, and just simple words and very strange, quite garish illustration, but kids love it because it's so bold. It's worth reading. It's actually quite touching.
Okay.
But
I really like
just
this book.
Simple words like goodnight air, goodnight moon, and you just sort of you're sort of saying, the kids are saying goodnight to the cows and whatever else. And that was the first book that, through me reading it to her, she thought she was reading it back to me, but she couldn't read, but she was doing it completely from memory. And so I made her this huge vessel called Goodnight Moon.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's really lovely. Yeah. It's just interesting to see how much of our life influences our art,
Mm.
yeah, and how it changes over time.
Well, with that first exhibition, she was old enough to be drawing and making marks, and I gave her some ceramic pencils and chalks,
Okay.
and so she was drawing quite a lot onto paper, and I transferred those back onto the pots. So there's some really cute, childlike, primitive markings all over the piece.
Oh, so you would trace over them.
It's actually called monoprint, and I do that quite a lot with surface work.
Okay.
So you take your paper, and you can draw onto it, and then you can cover it in slip, and then transfer the entire print onto the pot.
Mm.
And so from that I was taking a lot of her stuff, and even just giving her small tools to make marks into the pieces. So that was kind of where I was in life, and
Yeah.
and it was just this little person that was in the studio working with me all the time.
It's really sweet. And does she
Yeah.
join you in the studio even to this day?
No, it's not cool.
Pottery's not cool.
She loved it when she was little, and she spent a lot of time there, and I did pottery classes for her little friends, but the last few times her friends come in and they're like dying to do some pottery, and she's like, oh,
Oh, my mom's so embarrassing. Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
not again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those days are over for a while until she's going through her teenage bit.
Oh well. I feel like pottery has made such a resurgence. It's become so popular amongst young adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially date nights too.
Never been. Have you been on them?
On date nights for pottery?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did 2 dates for pottery, and it was all very enjoyable because
Mhm.
it's just like two beginner slash like I'm like beginner amateur novice, just making a mess and like showing her like, all right, this is how you center really quickly, and then just playing around with it. But even then, like my ex, we went on a pottery night, and she just wanted to learn by herself and do her own thing. I was like, all right, go for it, enjoy. And yeah, just like making a mess with someone and being with someone during a like a complete exploration where both of you acknowledge it's just full of fuck ups. It's just really fun.
Yeah, and having
Yeah.
a relaxing or funny activity.
Yeah,
together.
it's
Yeah.
totally unserious and not even attached to any outcome at all, which I think is also really important in any stage of your craft. Just complete.
It's a nice thing to do, because I think a lot of couples get to that stage where they don't really do much together, or they don't know what to do, and they end up sitting watching TV all day. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, I actually have a list of questions that I have.
Okay.
Yeah. What was the original wound or wonder that drew you to clay, to ceramics?
At school, I was pretty much only good at art. I failed miserably at maths and English and those kind of things. And there was a big transition at age 16 when my dad, he worked in the railway. We moved to England from Scotland, and I decided to go back to higher education college. And I took graphic design and photography, and I had to redo English and maths, but one of them was it said 3D studies, and that turned out to be pottery. So age 16 was the first time when I touched clay.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I loved the teacher. That made the huge difference. The teacher was fabulous, and probably leaving school is the first time that a teacher treats you like an adult.
Yeah.
And you have adult conversations, and she became a really good friend, and that got me completely hooked.
You want to give her a shout out?
She's actually changed her name to Mariana. She went incredibly spiritual,
Yeah.
and her name is Jane O'Neill before that, but she went on to a retreat, and her life completely changed, and no one's heard from her since.
Wow.
Sadly, but she was wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah. And the feeling you got when you first tried pottery compared to like the other arts or the other mediums.
Big connection. Not at first. I mean, like every beginner, right? You're just trying to figure it all out. But I think just the whole atmosphere of the class, and just loved learning each different technique. And I think I did my A-level in it too. So for 3 years I did it, and then decided that I wanted to go to art school and do a degree. So that was the next step.
You mentioned your teacher having a spiritual transformation, and when you mentioned that, I felt like there was like an inkling in you too. How do you feel like your relationship with spirituality connected with your medium?
Yeah.
Was there a path that was intertwined with your spirituality and your medium?
I think so, and I think it's really just in the last few years. Before it, I didn't really connect spiritually to anything. I was brought up Catholic and then realised that I just didn't want anything to do with that.
Same.
It just weird.
Yeah.
When you get to a point where you ask too many questions, I don't think they want you either.
Oh yeah.
So-
The question that was the nail in the coffin for my family was, Dad, how come we only go to church? We're Catholic too. For Christmas and Easter, like, what's the point? You know, do we just go there for like a top up of our
Yeah.
chalice, and
Yeah.
after that, just no more church for Nick?
Yeah, that's true. I think for a long time, just not thinking about anything other than enjoying the medium and not really getting into the why and how you've got that connection with something. And in the last probably five or 6 years for sure, I had some massive life changes. Obviously just end of a relationship and actually going through grief counselling. And that grief counselling led me to a group called the Lighthouse, and it was meditation and lots of Reiki and like a lot of. At first, I wasn't really into spiritualism. That to me, it was just like, ooh, like I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
But after I did a 4-year course.
With the Lighthouse?
Yeah, with the Lighthouse, with a fabulous group of women, and came out it completely different. Came out of it with my Reiki master and sound healing, had another course in that, and just it opened up doors, and it opened up doors in my brain. And then once that happened, I was able to connect it back to clay and realise why, like coiling, that's just so methodical and so calming and so. It really is an absolute meditation once you get into making lots of vessels, not just one at a time, but just working with 3 or 4 of them at a time, and just being so physically and mentally connected with those pieces as they evolve. Yeah.
I did my Reiki level 1.
Yep.
I didn't want to continue anymore. I felt like it wasn't my thing. But my teacher imparted me something really important, which is just the fundamental of Reiki, in her view, was just to be completely present with someone else. And I guess being completely present with the clay as well is extremely important, because the moment your mind slips, even with any medium, that's when the mistake, when the fuck up happens.
I think that, if you're just learning the medium, then yes, absolutely. But I think that once you find your mojo and you understand what's happening, and you can almost do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah, I found that when I was coiling. So thank you so much for showing me that during our class together, because coiling is so cool, and I can see the link of at least my my personal spiritual practice and coiling.
Yeah.
When you said it opened doors in your within you, when you linked spirituality and your art, what doors were they? What was the impactful ones?
I think some of them was actually understanding that my body was so connected to the clay. Right?
Oh yeah.
It's like you're part of the same element. And just understanding that we're not necessarily separate beings. Like we're just in this soup that different forms look like different things, but realistically we're all just a slightly different combination of all the elements. And I think I've just got that physical connection with that material.
For sure.
And I didn't realise that until I'd gone through that course.
Yeah, it makes you think about the old folklore or myths about people being made of clay and just being made of the same earth stuff, or even like the common spiritual woo stuff of we're all stardust.
Well, that's it, and the 5 elements, right? And partly mine's is earth, which is funny, and my daughter is water, and she loves water. So I don't know if that's just something that you gravitate to, or is something you feel more connected to. Maybe it's where we were before, and that like getting into the whole reincarnation thing. Maybe you've just got cellular memory from something else. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. I never looked much into reincarnation. A lot of my practice, or what I tend to lean towards, it tends to be Eastern philosophy or Buddhism. Yeah, but reincarnation, my brain's not at a point right now to talk about reincarnation, so I won't really go there.
Well, I don't really think like people's idea of reincarnation is you go from one person and then you become a new person.
Oh, okay, I just remembered. Sorry, I just remembered. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I view life as a school. I view this human life as a school, and the same lessons will continue repeating themselves until the graduation happens, or you know, you can transcend them or integrate them fully. I mean, do you even remember existing? Like, suddenly you exist, suddenly coming into existence.
No.
There's no proof I was actually born other than a birth certificate, but still, that's debatable. So the stuff, the hang-ups that I still have going on for me, this is just with regards to reincarnation. When I die, the same hang-ups are just going to be
coming back
in the next life. So just keep repeating the school until I graduate. But yeah, that's my belief, or my little myth behind it.
Okay.
You know, life is a school, and you just got to keep going through it. A lot of lives and deaths until you learn your lesson.
I think so. I mean, that's definitely the philosophy they teach, that you'll just, you know, it will keep showing up until you've worked through it. And that's probably quite true, especially in my life. So yeah, but I think for reincarnation, it's more of an energy, right? Like when you die, like you just become part of what's around you again. It's an energy. And maybe at some point you come back as a different energy, because we don't really disappear. You know, maybe the body breaks down, but even as that breaks down, you're releasing, if you're like buried, or I suppose these days they do a lot of embalming and horrible stuff like that, but if you were normally buried into the ground, what you're made of becomes part of the ground, right? That's the way it should be. Yeah.
When the body dies, what is it that remains?
I think it's just a physical, you know, where the cells are breaking down, we're turning into fluids, there's bones, so there's calcium.
I mean, when the body's completely gone, like all the flesh stuff, cells and everything.
Well, what remains are, you know, things you can make glazes from. Bones and minerals, and you know, possibly some, you know, heavy metals these days. And,
eating up tuna.
Microplastics.
Tons of microplastics.
But yeah, I just think that the energy alters into something else.
Yeah. Energy. Everything is energy.
Everything is, yep, and it all comes, I think, but I believe it all comes from light and sound.
Yeah, and we only experience such a small spectrum of that too. I mean, just our bodies are like little limited antennas that only pick up on very limited wavelengths, because we only see a certain wavelength of light, hear a certain wavelength of sound, and even like these sensations, it's processed through a very limited nervous system. So we don't actually experience what's actually here, or what this universe is actually made of. We're just like, we've got
like, this little tunneled vision, and it's like you say, that we don't see ultraviolet, so and there's a massive amount of ultraviolet around us, so what do all these other creatures see that we do not know exists?
Like this, I think this human form is just like a way of, I feel like we're actually just blind, and this human form is just a way of like pinging radar pings and just kind of managing around. So you know, using like air pressure, heat, whatever, and all that stuff. When it comes to pottery, how does this medium make you feel seen or expressed?
Oh, okay. How does it make me feel seen? I suppose what I'm putting out into the world as a teacher, and connecting with other people, and just having that relationship grow over a period of certain days, and then getting that feedback from people. I guess sometimes I feel seen that way. Or if I'm, you know, like trying to sell the work, I always it's like exposing yourself, which is a weird thing, and I'm not a very good salesperson. You know, like some people can take their work and show it to people and talk consistently about it until that person really wants to buy it, whereas I'm more of a, like, the piece has got to sell itself, otherwise I will not persuade anyone into anything. So I'm quite shy that way, so I'm not one of these people that kind of wants to be seen. However, I need to be seen in order to try and sell the work.
The artist paradox.
So yes, I'm not really sure if I'm very good at that. Which is good. That's why galleries exist, right? Because they can do that job that I can't. Then artists tend to some artists tend to be recluses, and at least in my experience, that's me.
They're the recluse artists.
Yeah.
For me, I I go for and also struggle with like that external validation. I like getting validated and getting the attention from other people. And earlier when I was doing my professional photography, I was working with my buddy Corey. He runs something called Awaken Events. It's like these giant ecstatic dances around Ottawa or Montreal. And I was saying like, hey, here's like a credits message to so people know like who took the photos, and in the early days we were working together. And he's like, pretty much, bro, calm down. Your work speaks for itself. It's okay. Just keep doing your thing.
That's good.
And so that was like,
Yeah.
it was like a weight off my
Taking the pressure
shoulders.
off, yeah.
Yes, I didn't have to like do like, if tag Awaken Events, tag Nick, do like all the credits. I just like whatever. I just keep doing my craft, and naturally, people will know because the stuff I make is good.
Yeah. No, I like coming out and teaching, and then it's a short burst of a completely different environment, and then I can go back to my studio and be completely alone. I would not be happy having to share a studio with anyone.
You tend to be introverted?
Very introverted, and then when I have to be, then I can be someone else for a couple of days or several days, and just enjoy it for what it is.
No, well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me then. After you teach and are surrounded by people and being like switched on in the teacher role, does your art change when you return to your studio?
It doesn't change, because I know that I've probably got a certain amount of work when I go back, and I know that the first thing I'm going to have to do is build up making mugs, so building up stock. So it won't change that way. I think it will take me a couple of days to get the energy back, to get back into that motion.
Yeah, like an integration process.
Yeah,
There's a lot of like
I
mental
will
energy,
go back tonight and I will be tired.
social energy.
And I know that tomorrow I will not do too much.
Yeah.
But then I'll have to plan just getting straight back into doing the thing that I know.
That's good to know that, because I experienced a huge backlash recently. I was in Texas for a 30-day retreat, and then I came back the day of. I flew in from San Antonio, Texas to Montreal, and I had to shoot an 800-person event. So I did that. I did it okay.
Well,
like it actually was not my best work because of it's like
a lot
of stuff. And I went back home, and I just did not feel human for the next like 6 or 7 days.
Yeah.
Like pretty much from one extreme container to another, and trying to find equilibrium again. And I'm still settling after that. But
overwhelm, and you're probably an empath.
What does that mean?
Well, too much in one go, and then if you're quite empathetic, then you're taking on what's around you. So then you have to get that weight off your shoulders, and that can take a process of a few days, certainly, to just shake it all off.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I definitely learned the importance of integration, and just not have to be like go, like, oh, retreat and photo shoot, I can do it. Yeah, I'll just tough it out.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then you realize that your body's like, no!
Yeah, like listening to my body a lot more, and actually being okay with like watching out for myself, like actually developing that relationship with myself.
And I don't think you realise that until you start getting a little bit older.
Really?
And obviously, yeah, and then I don't have the energy level that I had when I was your age.
Yeah.
And certainly menopause definitely kicks you in the arse. That really changes everything. And every woman I know that has hit 50 years old definitely feel, they've gone through the same process. So that's a weird thing no one prepares you for. And I don't have that energy, and you definitely have to listen to your body now, otherwise it's screaming at you. And last year I did too many workshops, and then I was also trying to do a couple of shows and give work to the galleries, and by December I was burnt out completely, and I didn't want to move for quite a few weeks.
What does burnout feel like in your experience?
Complete fatigue, where it's hard to get out of bed, and I think that also might be a menopause thing, but it feels like lead in your body. It feels like this cloud just descends and you can hardly move.
It's heavy. Just
really heavy, really, really tired, have no energy, brain fog, and literally making myself get out of bed because I've got a 12-year-old and still have to keep things semi-normal.
Yeah.
But if she wasn't there, I would probably have pulled the covers over and become a complete vegetable for a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah. The amount of consequence or backlash from that much action is crazy.
It is.
Yeah, like the body always tries to find equilibrium.
And it takes its toll.
Absolutely. What is your personal philosophy around technique versus intuition?
Oh, technique versus intuition. Well, I think you've got to develop the techniques first, and allow muscle memory from hands to brain to build up over time. And once, it's like driving a car, right? You can't just drive a car. You've got to learn how to drive the car. You've got to learn all the different parts, and at first you're too overwhelmed to be able to drive it well because you're panicking about the mirrors or something else. And it's muscle memory that helps you over time drive the car. So it's a bit like the same, where you're trying to figure out how coils get together or how to do something on the wheel, and it's disaster after disaster, and then learning why it's going wrong and why it might be going right, and constantly question yourself. And then after doing it gazillions of times, there's a connection between your brain and your fingers, where you begin to understand the entire process, and that's when it changes to intuition, because your brain actually understands the process without you having to constantly think about it.
Yeah. I find that with, at least in my art of photography, when I actually know the techniques or the technicalities with photography, like the parameters, then the parameters can be bent and be molded to the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just throw myself into a new craft and I'm like, yeah, I saw this on YouTube, I'm just gonna play around with this, and it could be just a disaster, and I don't know what I'm doing at all, and there's no learning going on because I haven't made all those like fine subtle distinctions of what anything is in the art.
Yeah. No, it's definitely you've got to work through it. It doesn't just happen. You've got to work through it. Even with form, when I'm talking about form, where you've got that, you know intuitively something's going wrong or something's going right, and working with the piece as you're making it, you can still get it wrong, but I think you've got to do that. That's taken me years to get that right.
Yeah. What's the most humbling mistake you've made with your craft, and what did it teach you?
Humbling? Oh gosh.
Probably a lot.
Yeah. Thinking that I can do, like, especially in the early days, where I would draw something and think, okay, I'm going to make this, and Clay's got a different idea, right? And it tells you sometimes, and that's quite humbling when you realise that the clay's got a mind of its own. It's alive, right?
Yeah.
And realising that a drawing doesn't necessarily transfer into a three-dimensional form successfully.
Yeah. When I see like people who knit or quilt, and potters too, like taking something 2D or just an idea and creating something three-dimensional out of it with all its like proper dimensions, weight. I mean, you're playing with physics, chemistry, gravity, the earth itself. There's so much chaos to
there is, and even when you think you've got it right and the form looks fantastic, the glaze or the way it finishes in the kiln can have a completely different idea, right? And then it can come out cracked or sagging, or the glaze has been a disaster, or you've mixed something up wrong, and that is always a constant reminder to potters that it's not always in your hands.
So many, like, it's just an art of infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
Are you doing okay? By the way, will you get sunburned?
I should be okay. It's more the black flies.
Okay. Did you want to move inside?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, let's move inside. Okay. How do you know when a piece is complete? What part of you decides that?
I think when I'm really happy with it. That's when it's complete. When it's came out looking good, and there's no flaws, and that feels complete to me. I know that piece can go out into the world. The pieces that I tend to keep around the studio are mistakes, pieces that I thought I was going to be enjoying, and then by the end of it I didn't like, and then other people will come into the studio and really love that piece, but for me it's not right, so it's not complete.
What are those little inklings of whether a piece is right or not right?
Well, mostly the form at first itself, especially if it's a hand-built piece. And then just the surface work when I'm working with a lot of coloured slips and doing surfaces on pieces, and even down to the mugs where I'm just painting and then flow. Some of the odd one will just look like an absolute disaster. And then the rest of them can be looking exactly as I hope for. Yeah, but that's when I know it's complete.
Actually, there's like a match within you and when you
There's definitely a match, and I'm probably, when I look at the piece, I feel confident, you know, with the piece.
Yeah, I know that feeling too. When I see a photo, I'm like, killed it. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, maybe it is your inner confidence, and maybe the pieces that I don't like that other people do like, it's just not what I wanted. My expectations were.
Yeah. Does it kind of surprise you when someone says like, "Oh, I like that a lot"? And
All
I'm
the
like,
time.
Oh, I fucking hate
that.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah, it's always strange, and sometimes like I'll be thinking, oh, I'm selecting pieces for a gallery, thinking, oh, they'll like that one, and whatever else, or these are my favourite that I'm going to sell at a show, and then I'll go home with those pieces, thinking, why? Like, they were my favourite pieces and everything else went, and then you've got one you're like, not quite sure about you, but I'll take you anyway, and I'll put it out, and it's the first piece that sells, and you're like, okay, well, what do I know?
Yeah, well, when that happens, like when your failure piece is the one that's like the hot item.
Yeah.
What have you learned from those pieces? Like anything from other people's psychology or like
I think
the consumer psychology.
Once I got over the shock of that, I'm just like trying to second guess myself. But like, well, why was that a favourite piece, and why did everyone want that one piece? And sometimes I can look at a piece and I realise that everyone is going to want this piece. Because it's my favourite and I think it stands out from the other pieces, but then that one stays, and then like what I don't know if I have figured it out. I think that everybody's got different taste and they see something completely different, and then when they look at my work, they get a different emotional response to what I get.
Yeah, so you haven't identified anything non-random when it comes to that, to like people's tastes or why?
They're wide. I've never figured that out with people.
Yeah, I guess humans' taste for beauty is just it's a chaotic field.
I think it's a good reminder that we all see things completely different.
For sure.
Yeah, we've all got our different expectations. I've got mine, and mine's is obviously to get it out to the world and sell the piece and make some money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy to consider how like your experience of this moment right now is completely different than mine right now. It's just all the stuff that you encountered in your life, and me too. And
plus I have to talk.
Yeah. Yes. You described being in flow earlier, especially when it comes to the pieces of your favorites. Can you describe what a flow state feels like in your body, and it feels like in your body when you're immersed in your work?
I think it goes back to what we were just talking about, where you're feeling good, you're feeling confident, you're in control of your studio and the environment and how everything is working. Obviously taking flow, when you're out of flow, when the kiln isn't firing, elements are breaking, your thermocouple's gone at the same time, and that can happen, like one thing after another just going wrong, which has happened recently. But then you've got that other space where like work is building up, you're working towards show, the pieces are looking great, everything's drying consistently, and it feels good. That's what flow feels like. Yeah,
in my experience of flow, it does feel very light, effortless, not like contracted and strained. And also during photo shoots where I am in flow, it feels like I just know where to be at the right time.
Yeah, but I think inside you just feel like,
it's like it feels almost psychic of I need to be there because then I know I'll get a good shot, and then it just happens.
I think you've got that positive energy. I think that's what flow is as well. You've got you're surrounded by positive energy. It's coming from you. Whereas when things start going wrong, your energy's all wrong, and I think that's when you start attracting things that why the situation can get even worse, because your negative energy is just attracting it.
I'm just snowballing that. Yeah. Do you see that a lot in your life? How you are actively creating your own reality, and
yes, too much.
Oh yeah.
Been doing a lot of deep dives about that recently.
What have you gleaned from that?
Still really learning about it. I think that being in a pretty shitty situation sometimes and trying to figure out how to look at it differently. So it's not you're not going to necessarily change the situation you're in if it's shit, but how you respond to that situation. You can either respond with anger, frustration, and keep being in that cycle over and over again, or you can start thinking about, well, this is okay and this works, and I think if your philosophy changes, or you can start seeing positive aspects of it, even if it's about knowing that a change or a process is happening, then I think that's...
My teacher posits that if you can create, if you're already in this angry, frustrated, really negative mind state, it's something you're creating. And if you see that you're creating that, then you can create something else. You can do something else another way. But first, you have to see that you're creating that negativity. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of people don't see that. And I in the last few years, I've been able to sort of stand away and realize that sometimes I'm doing it to myself.
Oh yeah, I just started seeing that, and I'm like, I made a mess of my life. Holy shit! Oh my god. But also, there's some beauty there too. You know, like sometimes I get lucky, and I'm not in like a state of melancholy or sadness or anger or depression, and I can see that I can actually create a new possibility in my life.
Yeah.
And then go to a completely different direction. Like the reframe you gave me about my situation, my living situation. Yeah.
Well, read Biology of Belief.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've got Spotify, I think it's online.
I do. Who's that by?
Bruce Lipton.
Okay, yes, I remember you showing me that.
I'll
check it out. I got a 3-hour drive ahead of me.
There you go. It's like there's aspects of that at the beginning. It's a bit too technical for me. He's really just building up to it. But once you realise that every cell in your body is producing that energy, whether it's positive or negative, and what you're feeding that energy, that is what you're creating.
Within your finished products, do you notice which pots were influenced by negativity or positivity?
Oh yeah.
And do the ones influenced by either one?
If I'm in a really shitty mood and I've got to throw pots, I will have a bad day throwing. It just doesn't flow at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, that completely changes every time I'm working.
Do those products end up selling or reaching people?
They usually end up back in the bin.
The negative ones?
Yeah.
I mean, you even showed them at galleries too. Hello.
No, if I'm having a bad day throwing, there's, it's off, it's collapsing, it's just not feeling right. Quite often I'll stop and go and do something else.
Yeah.
Because I can feel it in the clay and I can feel it in me. And I'm not doing myself any favours.
For sure. Well, when you do take that step away, what do you do?
Well,
when you're feeling off your game.
When you're self-employed, there's a gazillion things to do, right? So take your pick. Yeah. There's either home life, cleaning up, doing something completely different, going for a walk. If I just want a complete break, just going for a walk's a good thing. Hanging out with my daughter. I've got 3 cats.
Yeah.
Kitties.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always other things to do. There's so many jobs in the studio that doesn't involve making.
For sure. Okay, third move, because we never know when someone's going to enter. If no one ever saw your work again, would you still make it, and why?
Well, if no one ever saw my work again, I wouldn't be making a living. So
if money, okay, throw out
money, I would never stop. If I won the lottery, I think I would just get the best badass studio I could ever afford.
Yeah.
And I would also be collecting a huge amount of ceramics from other people. But I would really like a great studio, because mine is pretty damp, and be really selective about what I did without worrying about an end product that had to be sold. Never stop. Love it.
That's awesome. I'm glad you found your purpose and passion.
Yes, it's a good thing. It would be nice if Potter's made a little bit more money, but I do love it. It is a huge passion.
Yeah, I wish artists just got more funding altogether. I feel like art will save the world. It's the human expression, because I feel like a lot of evils of the world is because of a lack of expression.
Absolutely. I think you walk into someone's house and the people with the art on the wall are usually more interested. And then if you walk into someone else's house and they've got zero art or craft anywhere, there's something missing within them.
Less, less, I wouldn't say character, but like...
Dare I say more shallow?
Shallow could be a good word for it. Shallow expression, it's like less depth.
Yeah, less depth. Don't think about things. Maybe just care about sports. Spend their money on odd things. But I don't know. I just find that people who love art and appreciate, music and will go to concerts and collect art, it's people like that that this planet can't do without.
Yeah, art has, I don't know, it's like when I experience a nice work of art, I don't know if nice is even the right word for it, like a genuine work of art, there's something is moved in me. Like I actually feel emotion just from experiencing something. Yeah, not because with humans we go through so many emotions just interacting with each other all the time, but I don't know, it's a creation to move someone. That's a true, honest creation, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you never know how and why you're going to move someone, right? And the work that I have been doing in the last few years, from the functional to the vessels, have been called emotional landscapes. So because each person can look at it and feel something completely different, or feel kind of nostalgic to something that it reminds them of, whether it's nature or a place, or like people will connect to me because some of the work that I've done before was about Scotland and Neolithic Scotland, and people will gravitate to that because they like the stories of what's behind the piece, and then they can see the piece differently to how they first viewed it.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it adds context with the myth and the lore of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Suddenly they've got a stronger connection, and it's not just about what they're saying, but it's about where it came from, and also they've got a connection to Scotland, or they've got a draw to Scotland, like Hugh. It makes them feel more connected.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, I've never experienced Scotland before. I do like folklore and myths and stories, and one of my favorite video games, it's called The Witcher 3, has some aspects of the that part of the world there. Yeah, especially like the monsters and the like. Are gnomes from Scotland? Are they German?
I don't think so. I don't think gnomes. I always think of that as an English thing, not a Scottish thing.
Oh, well then. Either way, I love the they're known as cryptids or like mythical creatures. I really like mythical creatures. Yeah, and I was obsessed with like Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology when I was a kid.
A big one in Scotland are the Kelpies. You heard of the Kelpies?
Oh, the water horses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Sweet. Well, did those inspire some of your crafts too?
No, not at all. But I've seen some really wonderful ceramics where the Kelpies, she actually made Kelpies in clay, and they're just stunning pieces, and nice stories about them too. Because they were actually most people were fearful from that if they saw a Kelpie, and there's a lot of myths where they're coming out of the water.
Oh, they're known as a bad omen.
They can be, but they're just big, powerful creatures.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. It seemed like Tara and everyone else got a lot out of the class, and their own like personalized version of the class into their own practice.
She's telling me that one of my lights in the back of my car was out.
Oh, okay. Next question was, what part of your identity would collapse without your art?
Probably now motherhood.
Motherhood would collapse.
No, well, without my art. Right, sorry, I got that the wrong way around. I was thinking more what would collapse without. Tell me it again.
So what part of your identity would collapse without your art? If I took ceramics away from your essence, from who you are, what would remain, and what would your identity be?
Okay, right. Well, I think what would collapse is being a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you took that away, then I'd have to almost reinvent myself for, what would I be? I'm not sure what I'd be.
Yeah.
I'm probably the type of person that would go and find a different kind of art.
Hmm.
You know, right down to beachcombing because I can't stop. But I think certainly teaching.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I would just find something else and
Yeah.
get into that.
When you say right down to beachcombing because you won't stop, you find would you describe yourself as a really ambitious person
No, not at all.
or relentless?
Just interested in what's around me.
Very curious.
Yeah, and a bit of a hoarder. So like even my daughter's really into beachcombing and my mum's like, oh my god, not more bloody stones.
Oh, beachcombing, like an actual. Okay, when you say
Beachcombing,
beachcombing,
yes.
I think like trying every little thing out, just
No,
everything, but the actual act of beachcombing.
Yeah, take me to a beach and I won't lie there and enjoy the sun. I will be rooting about for interesting things to do and things to look for. Yeah.
What's the most interesting thing you found so far? Rings?
Ammonite.
Ammonite? Like a fossil?
Yeah. The guy that I see, Ian, in the UK, he took me to, he did his degree in ceramics, but he was also very close to doing archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me some fabulous places in North Yorkshire, right on there's like a different Jurassic coast on North Yorkshire, going hunting for fossils. So
Wow.
he helped me find ammonites and broke them open because they're encased,
Yeah.
and belemnites. So
Okay.
I've got quite a few of those and I've found some really beautiful fossils over the years from doing these trips.
That's so cool.
I love it.
Can you-
And I've also, you know, those printmaking drawers that you get, you know, it's got all the little, it's like a printmaking drawer and you've got all these different little sections.
Mhm.
Have you seen them? And
I've only seen them in museums, like where they put little different insects and little
Exactly.
samples.
So I've got quite a few of them in my house with just stones that I've collected and shells, and Isla collects things.
Truly
and
hoarder.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so
Massive.
fun. Are you going to integrate some of those fossils into your pieces?
I don't know.
Is that possible? Like, what would happen?
I mean, like some of the textures certainly come through.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll do the fossils. Maybe in the future. But I just love them as objects. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, just to have something that existed hundreds of millions of years ago.
Yeah. And last year we were back in the UK, and we were at a part of the UK where it was really famous for sea glass.
Mm.
And finding blue sea glass is quite rare, and we've found a few pieces of blue and now they're like jarred up and they're like pride of place. My daughter was just ecstatic when she found a blue piece.
Oh, it's so lovely that you can share those moments with her too.
Yeah,
It's all
she
the
loves
all the
it.
collectings.
Yeah, because the other kids will be like playing and doing stuff and she's just like rummaging.
Yeah, it can be so simple too. Yeah, there's so many little wonders to find out there. Kind of partially why I like to visit like a city like Montreal, because there's little snippets of life everywhere. It's a very vibrant place, and when you look at the micro universe of nature, there's so many little bits of life going on everywhere.
Yeah, and everything's got its story, right?
Hmm.
You know, like I like that philosophy of where it came from and the time it came from to where it's ended up in your hands.
Hmm.
And that is an absolute narrative right there of, you know, from a piece of glass, what was it, what did it used to be, and how many years has that been tumbling about in there to end up as a small piece of glass, to an ammonite from, you know, 250 million years ago, and being one part of in the UK and slowly through time being pushed down and moved and then brought back up, and ending up right on the coast. It's just insane.
Yeah. Do you
And
find
then suddenly you've got it in your hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. To arrive at that moment in time after
And
all
you're
that
the
time.
first person that's touched it.
Oh.
Right.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, 250 million years that has been encased, and you've got it in your hand because you've broken it open.
Wow. Well, with that narrative, do you find yourself creating a narrative for it, creating a story for
Yeah.
it, or do you leave the questioning open and just like how did how did it get here? Blah blah blah. Like all just open questions, or you create a narrative for it.
I did a series of work when I was in Orkney,
Uh-huh.
and I thought I was just going there to look at the Neolithic chambers and cairns, and that's where my interest was. And were you here when I was talking about that piece that moves with the marbles inside?
No.
Was that, you weren't there? Okay. Was that, no, okay. So what surprised me when I got to these very sacred areas from the standing stones and the cairns, and they're like, I don't know, 2.5 to 3,000 years old, and maybe even as old as 5,000, and the graffiti on it. So years and years and years and years of people leaving their mark on these Neolithic stones. So that's just like, that's a massive story there. And so I started to do these pieces called narratives, where you've got obviously the original people building these monuments to people for how many millennia were just coming, gravitating to this area for a specific reason, but they might not understand why, other than the awe of the place.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a ley line, maybe it's a power line, and that's why they're coming to that area. To the Vikings leaving their mark, they were like carving into these stones. So that was like 1,000 years ago. The Picts were also carving into these stones.
Yeah.
To Victorian Britain, where people were, always leaving their mark on top, and then then you'll get somebody writing Bob 1979, and everybody that's getting there, and they've got this absolute need to either leave some words, leave a mark, or the big huge thing is their initials and who they love, and a year. And I just love that something is just evolving all by itself, because it's drawing people to it over millions of years.
Yeah, there's like the human need to either leave some kind of legacy.
I was here.
Yeah, I was here, but did not create a legacy for themselves. It's like kind of like right on the coattails of these stones. Yeah. And I also like how you don't reject like, oh, these people are vandalizing. These people are like, oh, Bob loves Laura or whatever. It's that's this graffiti, it's this trash, don't do that. But I like how you include the entire timeline of the creation all the way up to every marking of all the whoever else wants to just leave a mark. And
that's what I liked about it the most. I mean, obviously people get upset through graffiti and it can be devastating, but I was really excited by the fact that you were standing there, and how many people had stood there before, having that moment.
So I don't know what the pottery terms are. There's a collection, this creation, or this series?
It's called the Orkney series.
The Orkney series. Okay, and it was inspired by all the narratives that you experienced and created during seeing all these this stuff, this old stuff.
I don't know if you noticed a sort of triangular closed-in form that was sitting there. It was bisque paste
with the circle in the middle.
Yeah, that was the one that I made. But this one, if you picked it up, there's movement inside it. And Hugh picked it up a couple of days ago, and he went, oh, as soon as he heard something rolling inside there. And I'd made a series of pieces for the Orkney series, and it was about an experience I had where we were going up to one of I think it was a chambered cairn, and we hiked up the hill, and it just looks like a mound from the outside, but what it is this honeycomb burial chamber. All kind of built in stone, and you can't see until you go inside, but outside it's telling you that when they discovered the opening, they found like the skull of 50 dogs, or and different bones, and all these different things. And then there's a box, and you open up the box, and there's a torch, and you think, okay, I'm going to have to get down on my hands and knees and sort of crawl into this area. So I did it, and my friend wouldn't come with me. And from the drawings, I knew that there was a chamber inside and then 2 chambers off. Anyway, I get inside, and I'm on my hands and knees, and the torch, the batteries are dead. And I'm like, no! So I wasn't sure if I could even stand up, or it was pitch black, and I just thought, if I hear a noise, I am literally going to shit myself. And there's just a faint light coming through from inside, and I had an old camera, and I thought, well, if I start pressing it, it will strobe.
Yeah.
So started doing that, realised that I could stand up, then realised that I could then climb into the other 2 chambers, and then I was able to start seeing things and then take a few photos with the flash. But that experience of being excited and looking forward to something, to suddenly I was so fucking scared. And I decided to make some pieces where they look like you could pick the pieces up,
Yeah.
and you're kind of drawn to it, and oh, that's nice, and then suddenly there's movement, and it makes you just freak out slightly.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that's what those pieces were about.
That was your intention, is
Yes,
this like
it's
change of emotion?
Change of emotion, and usually to just make them immediately disturbed.
I love that. That's shock value.
Yeah.
And what does that feel when you accomplish that?
Well,
that
when
purpose?
Hugh did it, because I've not had that piece out for a while, but when Hugh did it the other day, it was just like, yes,
God, I still got it.
and I can talk about this again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because he just literally was like, oh!
That's sweet. That when that experience happened?
The
You going through
Orkney?
the chambers? Yeah.
2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you do that again?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to go back there, and I would be a lot more involved. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I can't imagine like if you do go again, how your art would evolve from that experience too. I
Yeah.
feel like really vibrant and places with such immense history. There's just new things to pick up on and new things to glean from such an experience.
Yeah,
being
it's
there.
a fabulous place, and of course there's lots of islands, and I just stayed in the mainland, or the main island, but there's, I don't know, like 50 islands to explore.
So much.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the Philippines, where it's just like vibrant culture and so much to explore. In
It's got
a
the
small amount of
shortest flight ever, and I think you're on it for about 5 minutes.
Really? Okay, but worth it. I mean, from the destination of the flight to the destination to the arrival, how much does the culture change between that distance?
From the end of Scotland into Orkney?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, the accent changes dramatically different. It's completely different, and the Orkney people have a lot of Nordic blood. So Norway used to own the Orkney Islands, and I think I don't know, back in the 1700s, they probably fought over it over years and years.
Probably.
But I think they gave the Orkney Islands back to Scotland as a dowry,
Okay.
as a gift for one of their princesses getting married. So they've got a lot of Nordic way of life, and plus like sea-based, you know, it's all fishermen and different folklores, and you know, like a lot of traditions that are still being withheld there, and some lovely crafts happening there.
Yeah.
It's quite special.
That's what I love about visiting Europe specifically, is the very condensed cultures, and just like
Yeah.
an hour across the border, you're in a completely different world.
Yeah.
Everything is different.
And you go
But-
from the city to a small Spanish village, and you've just got, you know, it's like this time has stood still.
New world.
Oh yeah, it's just, you know, you've got the wee wifeys, you know, that have not changed, with a, you know, the scarf around their head and the pinny still on, and you know, like climbing hills with their shopping, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
So hardy and tough.
Yeah.
If you could sculpt your entire life's journey as one single vessel, what would its shape and texture be?
I think I would maybe go back to Goodnight Moon, that piece. It's just very rounded, and aesthetically, it's like a large hug.
Oh.
Yeah, and maybe because it's so, I'm emotionally attached to it because of my daughter, and it's a very simple piece, and it's not busy, but there's a couple of areas that you're drawn into, and there's some words on there, and you're not quite sure what it says. You've got to really look. In fact, you don't actually know what it says until you hold a mirror up, and then you get the reflection of the words on there. But the actual surface texture is very quite white, a lot of very subtle texture, and you've got to just home into it and take your time looking at it.
Yeah, it's sounds like a piece that demands a lot of
It demands
There's
time
a-
and patience, because
Yeah.
one person could look at it and take it all in a second and then dismiss.
yeah.
And I'm the type of person that will just sit there and see something different each time I look at it, and I like that.
That's beautiful.
And
Yeah.
it's subtle.
Are you open to sharing what the words are in the mirror, or you want to keep that secret?
It's part of Goodnight Moon.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's you know, read the book.
Sure. I love children's books. I really enjoyed Pinocchio, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah. But about that piece, slow living has been something I'm really gravitating towards these days, especially after job loss and other life transitions like relationship loss too. I went on a date recently and went on a really long walk, like 7 kilometers of like the slowest walking. I don't know if you've ever seen Zen monks will do walking meditation, but it's like step, 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 really slow pace. And that's one thing I appreciate about walking, because I'm a cyclist, and just being able to take in everything, all the surroundings, and
Try not to stand on something.
oh, pardon me?
Try not to stand in something like a
Yeah.
bug.
Yeah, and just being able to, just the ability to absorb everything and see and make finer distinctions while I'm taking in my surroundings. And when it comes to like one particular piece and focusing on everything, you can really, at least in my experience, I can find that there's so much that you really don't know about a piece until you just start like really getting your eyeballs all over it and touching it, and it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
That curiosity.
Yeah, and a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, I find like curiosity is rare. Curiosity and openness is pretty rare.
But I think also what's rare, especially in these days, is with social media and people always having their heads in phones and TVs. They're just like, everything's so busy, and you're so focused in stuff that is meaningless, and you forget the simplicity of, like finding a small thing to really think about. Like my mum will look at a stone and she'll be like, toss. Like she just doesn't get it, whereas I can actually sit there for a long time looking at its form, looking about some of the minerals that are moving around there, and just really enjoying it. And she just does not know what to do with that. Like she would literally throw it out. So a lot of people are missing. They're missing a lot by being so focused on that. They're missing nature. They're missing a thought process that can be quite beautiful.
For sure. Or even just the simplicity of what one's breath feels like, or what your body feels like right now. Or trees, leaves coming in.
Exactly.
A lot of stuff.
And how many people just miss this? I mean, what is happening out there compared to when we arrived on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It really is. And how your body reacts to it too, because like hay fever and everything else, and people just think, oh, I've got a cold, I'm not feeling well. And you're like, yeah, well, you're covered in pollen.
Did you always gravitate towards this simple beauty, or was that something that you had to relearn or recognize?
I think maybe being a 70s kid, like back in those days there weren't a lot of toys and stuff like that, and TV was minimal. I think there were 4 channels on TV, and not all of it was for children, and so you were out playing in the mud. And it might have not been a spectacular area, but you were finding little things and finding things to do and inventing things, and then for a long time you forget about that, especially as you become a teenager and then you start going to university. But I think doing clay, you still have an appreciation for those, and then it just develops. And I actually think that the older you get, the more you begin to really appreciate it. So I like most birders, they don't really get into it until they're a bit older, and then they start thinking about the birds that they haven't thought about their whole life.
Yeah.
Right? And just, I don't know, I think the older you get, you've got a bigger appreciation for the small things.
I got lucky
for what's
then.
important as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's because after so many years of life, I'm assuming right now, after so many years of life, I feel like you have experience fatigue. Like you've done all the new cool things or all the extravagant things, travel to all the places, and you're like, okay, well, not maybe what's next, but also like what am I overlooking? I don't really feel like traveling anymore. It doesn't, like, what is the word for, like hedonic adaptation, where you get used to pleasure, and you also get used to pain as well. So you're just there still wondering like what else is there for me.
I think travel, I mean, even with this job, it gets me out there sometimes, traveling. And also having family back in the UK, So there's a reason to go there. And my mum and dad lived in Spain before they retired and moved to Spain. So I've been really spoiled with being able to travel.
Sweet.
And since I came to Canada and then having a daughter, I travelled a lot less. And this country is massive. And I wasn't going anywhere. I was hardly even seeing friends. And it's only been in the last, we got all the lockdowns, right? So no travel whatsoever. Couldn't do anything. And by the time all that ended, I was just hungry to travel, and I love traveling. Obviously, you get tired, but there's always something new.
Yeah.
There's new people, there's new experiences, or that you get to relive some of the best experiences that you've had before.
Yeah, even with new eyes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. We have a few more questions.
Okay. Are you saving the best to last?
Oh yeah, I organized it.
God.
I organized it just to get a bit more existential at the end. What have you learned about impermanence through your work with clay?
I don't even know what that means.
What have you learned about how nothing lasts with your work with clay? How everything changes and nothing lasts?
I think that's just time, right? Nothing lasts because time always moves on. But when you say nothing lasts, things do last.
Oh yeah?
Well, memories can last, objects can last, experiences can last.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it you're asking?
The things that don't last. And I would also posit that memories don't last.
Memories can, often not last, and
Memories don't last.
Hit menopause, and your short-term memory is.
But even the experience, like let's say when we were out earlier with the black flies, that experience it's gone. It's over already.
It's gone. Maybe we'll see. That might last for a few days.
Okay. But your experience of, or what have you learned about,
I'll tell you what I think about with ceramics, where things last. So you've got a customer pondering if they should spend $100 on one of your pieces, right? And they're just not used to spending that when it comes to a piece of clay. Some people are, and it's a natural process, but they're just not used to, like, it feels too extravagant for them. But then you'll explain to them that they can go and spend that in one evening for a meal, and 2 days later you've forgotten about that meal and you've just spent $100, and that memory is gone. But if you've bought a piece of work, providing you don't drop it, you've got that forever.
Yeah.
Right? That lasts.
Yeah.
Your meal doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. This links up to a follow-up question I have is, what does it feel like to leave fingerprints on something that will outlive you?
Happy and sad. I think happy because you're leaving a little part of you behind, and I hope people like my daughter or my friends get to hold on to that. And sad, obviously, because at some point it ends, right? But maybe it's not so much sadness. I think it's maybe nice, maybe honoured that you're leaving something behind, and your marks are on there.
When you say sad that it ends, what is this it?
Me. Gone. Life.
Death.
Yeah, death. Or maybe not death. Maybe an alternative.
Maybe the reincarnation we talked about.
Are we starting back at the full circle?
Oh yeah. I think about the same thing with my photos. I mean, I just see a bunch of files on my computer in JPEGs that will probably never get looked at in 50 years and just erased, gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. How little of a mark me as a human just has on the world or with anyone. Because anyone who even has an opinion on me is going to be dead at the same time too. Within 50 years' time, it's just wiped away.
Yeah.
And it's pretty humbling too, and also very encouraging for me to, like, all right, well, because none of this really matters.
Yeah.
Then.
But you don't know what's ahead,
Then create.
Right?
I don't know what's ahead, and I also, if there's any mark that I do want to leave, I want it to be for the positive. I want to create something that will raise people up.
I think definitely. I mean, there's that's a hope that you know, the marks that you do leave behind have been a positive one.
Yeah, yeah. Although
Rather
recently
than-
I've been reflecting on the marks I've left behind that were definitely not positive. I'm like, ah, fuck. But then acknowledging that, yeah,
Exactly.
I fucked up, and then how can we grow and learn from this?
Right.
Growing pains.
And then you're a better person for it, right?
For sure.
Because you know you're not necessarily going to repeat it. It's the repeat offenders that
Yeah.
never actually take accountability or think about what they're doing to someone else.
Yeah, and I've definitely been that repeat offender.
But I think that's youth as well.
Yeah, a lot of stupidity and just learning.
Oh, you know, you're younger, you think you're invincible, you're a bit selfish.
Mm.
You know, I think it's quite a natural. You know, it's like being an older teenager.
I'm turning 30 this year, so I don't
Oh,
know.
you're just a baby.
I want to outgrow this. Yeah, I'm aiming to outgrow the boyhood parts and the teenage parts.
Mhm.
You really think 30 is just a baby?
I think so.
Why is that?
I loved my 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was about 33, 34 when we emigrated over here.
Mhm.
And it was just a nice time in life. Like I just felt young, and life was still ahead of me. I mean, not that I'm saying that I'm old now and it's over, but just having more energy and more hope for the future.
Hmm.
You know, so 20, I don't know, 25 years on, I'm like, woo.
Do you still feel that same energy and hope in your current life?
Sometimes, I mean, the energy, the physical energy is gone. I'm more tired these days, and I definitely need to recuperate more. But yeah, I've still got a bit of vitality in there, I think.
For sure, I think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're even when you teach us, everyone got so much value from the work.
Yeah,
and
we were a
even
good group.
yeah, we were maybe the best.
Absolutely.
Me as a complete newbie to hand building, yeah, I was able to pick up a lot from your instruction and really get into it and get into flow, especially with coiling too. Again, so
That's good. I hope you try it again and keep going.
yeah, I'm gonna keep pottery as a hobby.
Good.
Not the mastery, no, not like the thing I'm gonna dedicate a lot of time and energy to, but definitely something that I find joy in expressing every now and then. Yeah, like pottery for you it seems to be your main craft. I'm still searching on like what is the main craft.
Yeah.
I do like photos and videos and audio, but we'll see how that goes in the future.
Yeah, good luck.
And now my final question.
Okay.
Who are you when the kiln door closes and you're waiting in silence? Between projects or when, yeah,
Who
outside of
am
pottery.
I?
Yeah, who are you?
Well, I suppose there's one aspect of me which is mum. I'm the mum,
Mhm.
but there's still other people needing me. There's 3 cats. And then I had a feral cat problem, and I had 7 cats at one point outside, and like doing things for other people. So I'm that. But if it's just for me, I'm relaxing. I'm just sitting in the garden, taking in sunshine and listening to music, and all this week. So I've had time to myself at night times. I've seen a few friends, but like given my own space, some good music, some food, absolute quiet, listening to the birds outside,
Yeah.
watching two ravens with their nests,
Oh,
which has been fabulous, and that's probably who I am, just enjoying what's around me.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just enjoyment of your environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Follow-up question on that. Who is it that enjoys all that?
What do you mean? Who is it that enjoys all that?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
who's the one enjoying that?
Me.
Perfect.
It's Lesley.
There you go. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being a great teacher.
Thank you
I
very
really
much.
appreciate
I'm
this
glad you came.
interview.
It was good. It was nice to get to know you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you the interview when it's all done.
Okay, I might not watch.
That's fine. I don't blame you. It took a while for me to get used to like my voice on camera.
Doing it well. The voice is always one thing, because obviously back in our day it was like tapes, recording yourself on a tape, and no one ever gets used to their voice. But like I seeing myself. I don't like photos very often, and I don't know, just maybe feeling older. And just, I'm like, oh my God, I used to be so young and I had black hair like you. And it's just like, where did I go?
Really, is it? I always thought Scottish people had like red hair.
Do you know where that came from?
No.
Sicily.
Really?
Yeah, Sicilians. It was came all the way up through Europe and all the way down through Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and that's where that gene came from.
Huh.
So
I would have never expected
yeah.
the Italian gene.
Well, it wasn't Italians, it was the Sicilians on their own island.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where the red hair gene comes from.
Out of all the islands, why
There? Well, because they moved up through and then hit Norway, and that's where the water in the islands flowed. So yeah, no, a lot of Scottish people have quite dark hair. My gran had really black hair. My mum had quite dark hair. Yeah, my dad had dark hair. He didn't go grey until he was in his 60s.
Wow.
I got my mum's side.
Nice.
Actually, I did colour my hair for a couple of years, but then I found out I was allergic to dyes, and then I tried the whole organic thing, and that didn't work, and I had to face some big fears.
Oh no.
Yeah,
my hair is getting
changes.
grey too. I got like little spots. every now and
Well,
then.
a few years ago it was really kind of just here, but in the last few years, maybe stress and life, it came on full.
Yeah.
And when I started to go grey, my daughter would be like, "You look like the old grandmum."
Oh no, they're not helping.
Yeah, and apparently recently I changed, like, we talk on Snapchat, and I changed the avatar from my black hair to my grey, and I thought, right, it's time to own up to
yes,
this.
Own it.
And 2 nights ago she was like, "Please change your avatar back." And I was like, am I embarrassing now? Yeah. So.
Before we leave, how can people reach you and find out about your courses or work, galleries, etc.? Where can we
Website
find you?
is, well, you have to get the spelling, but it's lesleymcInally.com.
Okay.
And Instagram's probably the most updated thing. It's Lesley McInally Ceramics, and that's usually where I post, life from time to time.
Okay.
That's
Cool.
the best one.
Are you doing more courses here at Halliburton?
I am doing another course here in surface design in the second week of August,
Great.
but it's
Great.
full.
Is there any last words you want to impart on people who could be listening?
Come to Halliburton, it's great.
It is pretty great.
It really is a lovely space, and there's great tuition and lots of choices, and it's a nice environment.
Also seems like this place is just run by artists. Like everyone here is an artist in some aspect. Even
Absolutely.
the lunch lady, she's a
Yeah,
writer.
yeah, it's quite an inspiring place to work. I really enjoy it. The studio's great, technicians are fantastic, and any time I've ever taught here, it just turns into a really good week. Nice people, so at least I draw nice people. Yeah, I like it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
God, there was one more thing. I'm trying to remember it. Yeah. If you would like me to just based on our interview together, if you would like me to interview other artists, who would you like me to talk to or interview? Name off all the names you want. I will talk to anyone.
Okay.
I tend to make friends really easily.
Yes. Well, whereabouts do you want to interview them?
Oh, anywhere. I used to live in Brantford, and now I live in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I can also travel up to Montreal too, because I love Montreal.
Right.
Whereabouts do I want to interview them? In their space, or you mean like where?
I'll tell you a
locations?
fabulous person to do it. She is in Newborough,
Where's that?
near Perth.
Okay.
Right, it's not too far away. It's Rideau Lakes, up there.
Yep.
And her and her husband, they were based in Ottawa, and they found this Stone Manor Studios, it's called, and she's turned one part of it into the most beautiful art studios. So she's running classes there, and they've got a nice environment around there, lots of history, and she's fabulous. You would love her.
What's her name?
Her name, now wait a minute, am I going to give her maiden name or her, let me look up so you've got it.
What was the studio called again?
Stone Manor Art Studios.
Okay.
And her second name is Lulashnik, Kim Lulashnik.
Kim Lolashnik.
Here.
Okay.
And she would give a great interview.
Great, thank you. Any other artists that you recommend me bothering?
I could have a think and text them to you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Lesley. I appreciate
Thank
it. Shall we end with a hug?
Yes, why not?
Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
And let's go home.
Okay, I will text my mother.
Yes, yes. Hello again. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, please let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave me some feedback because I'd love to learn where I can improve as a interviewer slash conversationalist. If there's anyone that you'd like me to interview, if you like my style of asking these deep cutting questions and interacting with artists, let me know if you have any artists in mind that you want to hear converse with or interviewed. If you want to connect to Lesley and her offerings or buy her art, please check out the description for her links and her contact. Thanks.